Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fuel for Growth podcast with myself, Niles, and Leonard. We missed last week's podcast. Leonard's been about doing things, I've been about doing things, and we've both been actually going through a little bit in our own personal lives. And so today we're just kind of going to dive into a few things and go over some stuff of how we've been doing and kind of ways we've been dealing with those things. So, Leonard, it's good to see you, man.
Man, good to see you too, Brad. We've been going through a lot these past couple weeks. I mean, even extend on, but these past couple weeks have been extra rough, and yeah, it's been, throw some obstacles in our way. But hey, we're gonna overcome them and get persevere.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think life has been throwing a lot of obstacles. Seems like, spiritually, it's interesting to me, but it always kind of seems like whenever one person's going through things, especially like close friends, people who know each other, it ends up being like everybody else is also kind of going through things at the same time. And it's weird, but it's like almost spiritually connected with each other. Like the energy is real. Like when everybody's going through shit, it's like you're not alone in that because it's like for some weird reason, when you're going through shit, the likelihood is that somebody you know is also going through bad stuff as well, right?
Right? Yeah, and like we were saying, is like that's it's just energy, right? Energy doesn't ever, die off or anything. Energy can only be transferred from one thing to another. And that's just like with us, it's all energy and spiritual in that situation. So we all kind of just get to feel and go through things. So that's kind of why we say sometimes, like, even though you feel alone, you're not really alone. There's somebody else going through exactly what you're going through and feeling like you just, got to reach out. And social media makes that a little bit easier now for you to find people to that's going kind of through the same things that you're going through, or at least similar to it, that you can kind of relate to.
No, 100%. And I think there's a lot to be said about like the principles that we give, right? In like entrepreneurship, I always preach a lot about like everybody preaches about like discipline, getting the work done, and keeping a positive mental health, etc. And the thing is, like all these things sound fantastic when you're doing well because it's like so easy to like do them, right? But it's like the moments that things really get hard, that's when those things come into play. And I actually recently did a video where I was saying like discipline doesn't matter. And the point of the video was that I'm not saying that discipline obviously won't make your life easier because it will. Like if you discipline yourself to do things when you don't feel like doing them, your life will be easier. But the thing is like you could be an alcoholic, you could be going through everything, you could be a drug addict, you could be all these things. But if you still do the things that are going to make you successful, then you'll still be successful, right? And so I think it's important to know that people like realize that when you're going through bad things and maybe you like screw up or you do things you're not supposed to do, or like you've got stress and you're like, maybe you spend a day watching movies, right? I've done this before. Like when I've had a really bad day, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll just watch movies all day. And I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. It's a waste of time. But the reality is, because I'm still getting the work done, even if I'm not doing it perfectly, I'm still at least getting it done. And like that's an important piece as well, is like when you're going through bad times, understand that like it's okay to like screw up and do what you like, don't not do the things that what I mean, like do the things that you're not supposed to do, right? It's like if you do those things, it's like okay, like whatever, like I've screwed up a little bit, I had to do I did this
We're
thing.
not all perfect,
Right,
right?
right, yeah. That's basically the point I'm getting at. Yeah. So it's like just understand that when you're going through a bad time, the best thing you can do for yourself is reinforce yourself. Well, it's like, okay, this is going wrong and that's going wrong and I'm feeling this way. But at least I woke up today and I did X thing. At least I woke up today and I didn't drown myself with tons of vodka, right? Or something, right? Like that's a win.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of my thought process too. That's why I've always said, like, small wins sometimes, because like, yeah, we talk about being disciplined and doing certain things in situations to keep going, discipline over motivation. Treat your bad days the same as your good days. That's easier said than done though, right? So that's why I'm always like, focus on small wins. All right, I'm having a bad day. I don't feel like doing shit today. My depression's fucking with me. My PTSD is fucking with me. It's hard for me to move on and do anything right now. It's hard for me to even just talk to anybody, even if it's just normal conversation. People text, "Hey, what's going on?" I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with the world. I don't want to deal with anything. So when it's those days like that, it's like, okay, I know I might not be the most productive today, but how do I make this bad day more productive than my last bad day? Right. So I got to find small wins. I got to find the small things that I can go through there. Like, hey, okay, I got out of bed this morning. Okay. Hey, I went outside today. Okay. Hey, I went to the gym today. Hey, I got this one project today. Something, just something to make sure that I've done something throughout that day, because you'll get there and you'll feel that like, oh man, I'm not doing stuff, and then you get hard on yourself. And I heard this quote from Tom Hanks once, and he was like, this too shall pass, right? Everything's bad, you feel like you're all alone, nobody's here. This too shall pass. You feel like everybody loves you and you're the greatest
Yeah,
person, you got
that's
all
so
the
true,
friends
man.
around. This
This,
too shall pass.
yeah, 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 yeah. So true. So, so true. I think there was an old thing that adage that it's like it's called like regression to the mean, and it means that everything always returns to the nominal line, right? The nominal line being that you don't feel amazing, you don't feel terrible, you're just present, right? You're like you're here, life's normal, things are and normal being subjective, obviously, to what a normal life is for you, but normal being in the sense of the way you feel and the way like your energy is. It's like you're getting things done, you're not upset about anything. You're also not overly excited about anything. You're just kind of getting things done. And everything always regresses to that point. So whether you're going through a really bad spot, it will regress to that nominal line. If you're going through a really good spot, it'll eventually regress to that nominal line, right? Everything always regresses to that midpoint. And sometimes you'll go through like points in life where it's open, it's open, it's open, and it's like it's constantly like these great times. And then other times you'll come and it's like a really low point for ages, and then it finally regresses. And it's just like I say, it's just imagine a line in front of you, and every now and then it spikes up, every now and then it spikes down. Sometimes it's longer periods, sometimes it's less. But everything will always return to that middle point. And I think that's something to be said about like the yin and yang of the universe, right? I'm obviously, like I say, I always talk spiritually, etc. But I'm a religious man. I believe in the creator, one creator, and I thoroughly believe that that's the way God made us. Right? Is like God made the universe to have energy like that because it's necessary. Because without that juxtaposition, we would never know what a good day even looks like. Right? If every day was good, then every day would be bad. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I can't. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he asked somebody, he was like, "Would you want to live forever? If you could live forever, would you want to live forever?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he was like, "Me, no." Because if I could live forever, then what's the purpose of me waking up the next day and experiencing life? Because I have an infinite amount of time. I can put off everything till tomorrow because I do have tomorrow. It's like, why would I appreciate life if I knew that I could live forever? And that's kind of what good days are. You can't truly appreciate and take those happy days and be grateful for them as much as possible and as much as you should, unless you have the bad days and you feel those lows. And without those lows, you'll never understand what those true highs feel like and what those good moments feel like.
Yeah, it's so true, man. So so true. I mean, I remember I had this discussion with somebody once, and they said to me, they were like, "Oh, but it's like everyone should have like, you know, they shouldn't have the issues they have, right? For like people that are starving, people that are living, have to walk for the water, right? If you're talking like third world countries, etc. All these kinds of problems in the world." And I was like, okay, I agree. Like these problems shouldn't exist ideally, right? I absolutely thoroughly agree with that. At the same time, though, let's say everybody had everything that they wanted. How would it all fit in the world? Right? Because there's only so much land in the world, there's only so much space. And although we haven't used up all of it, a lot of it is needed for the life cycle of the earth, right? For animals to kill other animals, for those animals to kill other animals, and then for us to eat those animals, and then for us to die and it go back into the grass, and those animals eat the grass, and so on and so forth, right? It's part of the life cycle of the world that we have these kind of areas where they're uninhabited, etc. So firstly, it's like, how do you fit what everybody wants into the world? Because a lot of people want a big house. How can you get everybody a big house? And secondly, human greed exists, and it will always exist because it's something that God had put in us, or God allowed us to have, sorry, to prove to him. And again, this is because I'm a religious man, I believe it like this. There's other ways of looking at it though. But I believe that God allowed us to have sins of like greed, etc., because it's a test against us of like, okay, how much were you gonna how much are you gonna greed for? If you have a big house, are you gonna be grateful for that big house? Or are you gonna greed for an even bigger house? Right. And so if everybody had a big house, and we still had the kind of same position that we have right now in the world, what you'll find is that a majority of those people, and I actually mean the majority, not a minority, the majority of those people would actually want a bigger house. which is crazy to think, because obviously you would think to yourself, well, everyone's got a big house, so why would you want bigger? And it's like, because that's human greed. People get something and it doesn't fulfill them because they don't have that spiritual fulfillment. They don't have that family fulfillment. They don't have that mental fulfillment. They end up in this position where they're just like, they want bigger and bigger. And so, it basically is like, you've got to be grateful for what you've got. And you've got to understand that, like, on not every day is going to be a good day, because you need the juxtaposition, right? Because if every day was a good day, if everybody had what they wanted, everybody would want more. Suddenly, the worst problem you could have is not being able to go golfing on a Saturday, right? And imagine if everybody had that problem, you'd think, oh, well, that's great. But you only think that's great because you know what it's like to not have that problem. If you didn't have other problems in your life and your worst problem was you can't go golfing every Saturday, suddenly when you can't go golfing on a Saturday, everybody will be freaking out. They'll be dying, like they'll be freaking out about it because they don't know what's worse than that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to like comprehend, but it's like,
Yeah,
that's how deep it goes.
bro. And it's like we all want to be equal, right? But we all want to feel special in moments too, right? So to that point, like, okay, yeah, what if we all had the same? Well, we still want something that makes us unique and different and stand out in our own ways. We all still like to have our own personality. So even with that too, like if we gave everybody all the same and equal, then we still want something else more. And to your point about God and everything, is that I truly believe too, if you ask for something for God, be careful what you ask for, because he's going to give it to you. Right. So if you ask for a blessing, he's probably going to give you that. He's going to give you that blessing, and you better make sure that you're prepared for that blessing. Because sometimes he's going to give you what you ask for and you're not ready for it, and you're going to destroy it because you just not ready. And also know that when you ask for God for certain things, like, hey, God, I need strength. Help me give strength. He's not going to give you strength. He's going to give you trials and tribulations that's going to make you stronger. That's going to build up that strength. He's going to put you in situations that's going to make you stronger. He's not just going to make you stronger. So that's why a lot of people's like, well, I was asking for strongness to be stronger, and then all this stuff started coming and attacking me. That's why you asked to be stronger. He sent you some battles to make you stronger. I wanted to have peace in my life, and then everybody left. Well, that's why you asked for peace, and he took all the negativity out away from you. Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, because God's going to give it to you, and it might not look the way you want it to be, but you just need to realize that
Dude,
he is trying to prepare you.
brother, that is powerful stuff. That is really powerful stuff. You know what's interesting as well is that thing about, you said be careful what you ask for, right? It's so true, because like sometimes you get exactly what you want and you get into the position that you wanted to be in, that you asked for, and suddenly you're like, oh man, how do I deal with this? And it's like, oh no, it's like, it's way more stressful than you thought, and it's like, holy, like, but it's like God sat there and God's like, well, yeah, but you asked for this, like you asked for this. And then what's funny is you turn around, you ask God, and you say, well, God, help me out, like I want to, be able to deal with this stress, right? Help me deal with this stress. And suddenly it's like you lose that position, and it's like, oh, well, why have I lost the position? It's like, well, you asked to have easier life. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you want? Easier life, or like this special stuff, right?
Yeah, and I tell people this, and like this is something I've truly believed in for a long time, that I see people do too with God and religion. And I'm not very religious, because I'm trying to figure out a religion for me, but I do believe in a God and one creator and all that, but I just haven't figured out what religion I can actually stand behind, and I've been searching for that. But I've always told people, is like, God's not a plan B, right? It's not when everything else messes up and fucks up that then you go to God's like, all right, hey, do this for me. You got to be true to, like, okay, this is what I'm needing, this is what needs to be done, and then stick to those values. And a lot of people will go and ask God to do something, and then will put the harm on themselves because God is ready to destroy what you asked them to destroy, and then you're caught in the collateral damage, right? Let's say, just to give you an
Mm.
analogy, let's say you have a problem. Let's say you're holding a firecracker and it's a problem, right? And you're like, all right, this is my problem, Lord. I need you to take this problem, destroy it. I don't want nothing more of it. It's hurting me. I need you to get rid of it. So you hand the firecracker to God. God takes the firecracker, he lights it, and he throws it out into the field. And then now you're like, but I really love them. I really miss them. They're family. We've been friends forever. Then you run back over there and you go try to grab the firecracker real quick, and then it blows up in your hand, and now you're gotten destroyed, and you've gotten pain from what you asked God to handle, and God had it handled and set and had a plan set forth, and you just intervened and stepped up and got collateral damage for something that wasn't even meant for you, that God was trying to handle something in your life, but because you couldn't truly let go of it and let God handle it within his self, you had to go back in and intervene. Now you got collateral damage from what he was already trying to do to protect you and save you, and you just put yourself in harm's way.
Bro, that's still that was powerful. That was that was really powerful. I felt that. I felt every piece of that. That that is, I've literally got an exact story from this past couple of weeks, right? So I want to basically, I love my family to pieces, right? But we've been going through some trials and tribulations. I don't want to get too personal because it's the online world, but we're going through trials and tribulations, right? I'll put it as simple as that, right? And in these trials and tribulations, that exact kind of thing happened. I was like, look, I was like, I'm gonna have to position myself this way because I can't be around this kind of negativity, this kind of like what's happening here. I've got to really focus on me so I can help my family in the future. And so I turned to God and I was like, God, like help me do this, help me, look after my family and everything, and help me like improve myself so I can take care of them. And what's happened is I'm in this position now where it's like
Yeah.
I'm leaving, right? And I'm like, oh man, like I'm leaving. I've got to like leave places and like leave my family for a while and all this stuff, and I feel like terrible. But at the same time, I'm like, this is exactly what I asked for.
Yeah, and that's like something we've talked about too in the past conversations is um letting God take his control. And like when you need to leave or exit a situation, go ahead and exit. You can't take on, like the Bible tells you, you can't take on another man's burdens, right? I mean, bro, even when we were on an airplane, right? What's the first thing to tell you? For an emergency situation, put your mask on first, then help others. So a lot of times we're trying to help others and we're taking on a burden that we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be dealing with that. Maybe God is trying to teach them a lesson and we're intervening by trying to help. And by us trying to help, God is punishing us to tell us, get the hell away, get the fuck away. I'm trying to work something here and you're intervening and you're messing with it. You're delaying this person's blessing by thinking that you're trying to do something good. But honestly, you're doing more harm than you're doing good in this moment. So sometimes God is teaching people life lessons because they have to go through hard. Maybe that person asked for strength and they're going through some hard things to get the strength they need to be the person that they're designed to be later on in the future. And you're hindering that because you're getting in the way. Because I want to be a good person. And a pastor told me this a long time ago too, and this resonated with me and it stuck with me for a long time. He's like, a lot of good people will go to hell because a lot of good people live by the laws of goodness by man rather than the goodness by the Lord. So a lot of
Oh,
people is like goodness by land is like if somebody needs help, oh, I'm gonna go help them and do this and that. But like God says, like don't take on another man's burdens. This person might have messed up the stuff. He needs a value. He needs something to learn. And now you're stepping in and you're making it way harder for them. You're setting them back further than they need to be just because you wanted to feel like I need to help them and I need to do it. And no, sometimes people need to learn those things on their own. You be there and be support and be there to be their circle. But sometimes you don't need to intervene and try to fix their problems for themselves. You just be there for them in support.
dude, that cooking, straight cooking right there. That that's real. Dude, that line, living by the goodness of man rather than the goodness of the Lord, that is so powerful. Like that is really powerful because as I read the Quran and learn Islam and the way of Islam, because obviously, again, the internet, I like to make sure that I don't preach and sit here and be like, I'm a great Muslim, because I'm a bit, I like to be a student, right? I'm a student. So
Yeah.
I'll say that I'm a student of Islam, right? And as I've been reading it and learning about the Quran and everything, I see a lot of what he speaks about is actually just that. It's about the fact that people will focus on these like idols, right? So, as in, they'll look at somebody who does good in the world and they'll idolize them and try to be as good as them rather than being the person that they're meant to be, right? And things like this. So, like, looping that back to like what we were saying earlier about when you're going through hard times, etc. It's like this is another thing that people do a lot of the time is like you'll be going through a hard time, so you'll try to do what other people do to fix your problems. And it's like, brother, you can't do that. You've got to focus and be self-aware. And you can apply principles of other things, but you've got to mash it all together and come up with your solution, right? Come up with your way of dealing with things. And obviously, nobody's perfect. So, like, sometimes the way you deal with things might not be right. But at the end of the day, if it gets you to the position where you're like doing what you're supposed to do, where you're being a good person, whether it be spiritually, mentally, whatever your focus is, right? I think that boom, you know what I mean? Like like that's the way to do it. And so like it's funny that like things like the Bible, the Quran, all this stuff, like talk and preach about this stuff. You know, again, I don't like to push religion onto people, but I always say like you look at these books, man, and like they're right. You know what I mean? They're right. Like what they say is right.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people, because there's a lot of people that I talk to, and especially my followers wise, and they're not really religious, or belief in God, or might have that just distance between them, and just lost. Bro, I was lost for a long time, still a little lost. I'm trying to find my way, but and that's why I try to tell them, is like, even if, let's just say, just for the sake of argument and for the sake of better self, all right, let's just remove the religion aspect of it. There's a lot of good advice in that book, even if you just want to take that book as proverbs, that sit there and help you, and is actually a good guideline of telling you what you can do to be better in life. There is a lot of life lessons in there that you can really apply. And a lot of people, sometimes we've talked about this too, is that we're sitting there and we're saying, hey, watch what you pray for, but it's also how you pray and ask for things too. Because sometimes we'll be like, hey, uh, hey, Lord, let me get this job. No, hey, Lord, give me the strength, the knowledge, and all the tools I need to make sure that I'm successful to get this job. Not just, hey, give me this. No, give me the tools required for me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. That's going to be so much better. Because when you say, hey, God, give me this job, you're basically saying, hey, God, fish for me, rather than teach me to fish.
Yes, it's so true. And you know what's interesting is, have you ever heard of Luke Belmar talk about the story of King Solomon? How he copied that kind of thing where King Solomon asked for wisdom rather than the kingdoms, the wealth, and everything which God offered him. King Solomon asked for wisdom, and then the wealth came, then the kingdoms came, then the land came, all of that, right? And Luke Bellman mentioned this. He said, I remember specifically asking God for wisdom. And he was like, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, please give me that, and I shall use that kind of thing. And I look at Luke Belmer and I think he's a very wise guy. I look at him and I think, wow, this guy's so intelligent. And what's interesting is, just like you said right there, it's funny because when he asked for wisdom, he didn't say, give me exactly what, like, give me exact wisdom. He said, no, no, give me what wisdom is. Like, I don't know what it is, but just please give me, send me in the direction of it. And funny enough, this guy ends up reading tons of books, learning tons of knowledge online, just always trying to learn, right? And it's interesting that he asked for wisdom and became somebody who is dedicated his life to learning. And it's interesting how his path went that way after, it feels like, after he basically asked the Lord for the wisdom, right? And so, man, I think there's a lot of powerful things out there. And again, if people, watching this don't want to believe in religion or don't believe in God or anything, that's fine. Think of it as a self hypnosis thing, right? That's what I always say sometimes. I say, I would prefer to pray than not pray. Because one, if God is real and heaven and hell are real, the last thing I want to do is not pray and go to hell, right? Number two, if God isn't real, it is fantastic self hypnosis to sit there and convince yourself that by asking to be given a set of tools, by asking to be helped with certain challenges, all this stuff, that you will have an advantage, right? That self hypnosis in your mind is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's me too. It's like I said, bro, I was an atheist for a long time. Didn't believe at all. Then came back. So like that's why I kind of understand. Like, but even in those atheist moments, there's still parts of times of like I would reference the Bible about certain things, and they're like, "Don't you not believe?" And I was like, "Doesn't mean that." Like at that time, not how I think anymore. But at that time, I was like, just because I don't believe in God, it doesn't mean that what that says in that book isn't actual valuable information. That's actual life lesson. Um, so that's what I was always like trying to get people to understand. And Steve Harvey said this, and this really resonated for me, because even if you don't believe religiously, God, whatever, prayer and meditation is still very important for you. Okay, and this is how it described to me, and it made a ton of sense to me. And Steve Harvey said, "Is praying is what you put out into the universe. Meditation is you listening to what the universe is telling you." Right.
Oh,
So even if you don't believe that you're praying to a higher God or any of that, you still need to pray, talk to yourself. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. These are things I'm having troubles with. This is what I need to do better. Having those conversations with yourself in a quiet space that is just you and you, one on one, very personal, is very helpful for your yourself and your sanity and your spirituality. And then at the same time, you need to prayer and put out what you want into the universe, but you also need to take the time to sit there, meditate and listen to what the universe is trying to tell you, because it's a conversation with the universe. You're out there telling what you want. Now listen to the universe telling you how you can get it.
Dude, I love that. That's so, so good, man. And you know what's a great personal experience that I do this a lot is that I must admit I was trying to get back into meditation because it is a super important thing, and I've been lacking a lot recently. Shout out my man Rodrigo because he gave me a full like guide kind of thing to help me get back into it. So I'm trying my best to pick it back up as a habit. But something that I have been doing the past couple of weeks with what's been happening with me is I've been taking a lot of walks outside, and just even if like the day's not a great day, even if the sun's hiding behind the clouds, you can still go outside and feel like the nature. You feel the breeze through your head or whatever, and like it's just nice to be out there and quiet as well, right? I've thankfully, and I'm very grateful for this, where I live, on the back end of where I live, I can walk around to like this park, right? And there's a lot of greenery there, hills and stuff, and it's kind of just quite an open space. And there's only usually the couple dog walkers out there, so it's like it's quiet. It's like there's not a lot going on. I can just go out there and just sit there and just be like peaceful. And what's fantastic about that is like just like you said right there, is that it feels as though I get some reciprocation back, and I get a chance to think to myself and go, you know what, things aren't as bad as I think they are. Like it's good. Like I'm going well actually. Like things are happening, and you almost feel that energy, right? And again, I made a video recently talking about how majority of the feelings that we have anyway are lying to us, right? A lot of the feelings that we have don't reciprocate the reality of the situation. When you're able to go out like that into the peace, suddenly you realize which of those feelings are lying to you and not showing you the true reality of your situation. Because when you sit down and you give yourself a moment to think about it, you're like, oh, why was I feeling like anxiety for that? Because like that's not even a problem anyway. Why was I feeling depressed about that? Because that's in the past and it's been. And suddenly like you're left with this like point where you're like, oh, well, actually the reality of the situation is this, and it just, dude, that quote is just so powerful, man. Yeah, prayer is what you put out, meditation is what you get back.
Yeah, and it's, bro, it's just that simple fact, like what you're saying is like sometimes your emotions lie to you. Sometimes it's just a product of the situation that you're in. If you say locked up in the house, and this is a bad thing I have all the time because I got bad social anxiety. I'm trying to get out of that, especially with my PTSD from military, me being in Iraq and everything that I did there. Like it, being in big crowds, going out in public, that stuff makes it hard for me at times, very hard. But then when I don't do that, I'm sitting in the house all the time. I'm sitting in my room by myself all the time. I'm not socializing with anybody. I'm sitting there in a dark, depressed state. And really, all I need to do is go outside and walk around the block a couple times. Sometimes that's all. I just need to get outside. But I'll be so depressed and so stuck in that zone that I'm in that room of anxious and depression, that I don't want to leave or get out, that I can't even convince myself to understand that. I know if I just walk out that door, get some sunlight, make a couple walks around this block, spend about 10-15 minutes walking, my whole energy, my whole feelings, everything will change, just because I've gotten some sunlight, I've gotten some fresh air, I've gotten it. Sometimes we make ourselves feel certain ways because we put ourselves into a prison, and we don't need to put ourselves into that prison, and we isolate ourselves from everyone else, and we're thinking that we're protecting ourselves when really all we're doing is doing more damage than we was in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. I believe there was a great scientist once, and I've forgotten his name, but he said never trust an idea that came from a small room, or something along those lines. And the idea is that when you're trapped in these rooms, right, and you've got all these thoughts in your head, visualize it like this. Okay, when you're trapped in that room and these thoughts come into your head, those thoughts suddenly start to fill up the room. And so when you're in a small room and you've got all these different thoughts piling up, it's like the smoke of a fire rising, right? And the smoke's coming lower and lower, crushing you, crushing you, crushing you. And before you know it, you're just breathing the smoke in. Right. And that's the point where, like in your situation where you kind of sat there and you're like, you don't want to go outside now. You're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Even though the truth be told, that the room is what's really probably bringing you down, because all the thoughts inside of that room are crushing you. And so it's like the moment you leave and you just give yourself that peace, that moment to sit away from them all, suddenly it's like oh, I'm chilling. You know, I'm not too bad actually.
Yeah, it's just a change of situation. Sometimes we just come, like I said, we come prisoners to ourselves, especially once we get into depression. And I'm bad at that. It was just once that shit starts coming to, because I know that for me, once I get into those moments where my PTSD and shit's going up, there's very few things that's going to happen when I'm in that situation. I get very angry in situations, very intolerable, very quickly, just because of everything that's rattling in my head. Or I'm just going to be depressed as fuck, and I'm going to stay away from everybody, and I'm just going to be locked in. You just got to give me some time. You just got to give me a few days. And it's not the healthiest thing, but it's what I found so far that's helped me getting better, because it was to a point where, bro, I spend years in the house and not talk to nobody. And I literally mean that. Wouldn't go get groceries, wouldn't go do nothing. So now it's like, it's a day now. If that things usually happens, usually just a day now, where it was months, years I was sitting in the house, not talk to nobody, turn the phone off, nobody noticed, deactivate all my social media accounts, nobody noticed, and now not have interactions with nobody. And that was no good. I was putting myself into a prison. So but it's forcing and trying to get out and understand and start to realize that you're doing these things and picking up on those mannerisms that aren't truly helping you, that are only making it worse. We got to be in touch with our feelings. You got to know what you're going, and you got to feel your emotions, but also you got to have control of your emotions and know that, like, okay, hey, yeah, I'm feeling this way, but this is not going to dictate my entire day.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, it's like it's not the reality of it as well, right? A lot of the time it's the way that you're feeling does not actually show the reality of the situation you're in. But I do think that, like I just said, nobody's perfect, right? So some of our situations, like we deal with them very differently, you know, and I just think as long as you're not destructive, you know, if you're not constructive, that's fine. But as long as you're not destructive, I think that's the most important piece, right? Like people who go into like a state of, you know, excuse me, people who get into a state of mania, let's say, or something like this, right? Or depression or anxiety, whatever. And then they pick up the bottle and they just start downing and downing and downing one after another. It's like that's a destructive thing, you know? As long as people are doing things that are keeping that toe in the line, I always like, you know, like I was saying, kind of that regression in the mean. As long as you're not going down, like, you know, as long as you're not pulling yourself down there, as long as you try to keep that midpoint at least, then you'll be good. Because like I say, I know what it's like, right? I think everybody probably watching this knows at some point in their life they've been sat there, and it's like they know that maybe if they did a bit of gratitude journaling, they'd feel better, right? But it's like you sat there and you're like, I don't even want to touch that pen. I fucking hate that pen, right? And it's like it's not constructive to do that, but at the same time, it's not destroying anything. And as long as you don't destroy what you've built so far, I think that's the most important piece. Because if you start like pushing things around, pushing people away, hitting people in the face, like that's gonna not, it's not good.
Yeah, and that's why we say too, be honest with yourself, but don't beat yourself up, right? You're not
Yeah,
lying to yourself, oh, well, it
yeah,
was their fault, or people shouldn't treat me this way. You don't do that, but you also don't be like, oh, I'm a loser, I'm such a bad person, I'm never going to do anything. You don't. Neither one of those are good. You don't. You find yourself in the middle. Okay, these people are treating me this way. Why are they treating me this way? Is it because they're just bad, or was it because I didn't have boundaries set and I allowed them to treat me that way, and I allowed those things happen? Life is constantly attacking me this way. Is it because life's truly against me, or is it because I ain't learned a damn lesson I should have learned 3 years ago that life has been trying to teach me, and I'm just too stubborn to actually pay attention to what's going on and fix this shit and keep going through the same thing and groundhog every damn day? So you just got to be honest with yourself and like, is it me? Is it them? All right, if it's them, take them out of my life. Is it me? How do I fix these things? But it's not like, oh, well, this is just who I am. This is how it's going to be. No, you got to just be honest with yourself, but don't beat yourself up and tear yourself down.
yes, exactly. You know, that's exactly it. I think that's why people do those destructive things. Actually, if I think back to when I was a destructive person and I would, you know, do things that I wasn't supposed to do, again, I would. Well, I guess again, a lot of it I don't want to talk about on the internet, bro.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. No, true.
yeah,
Yeah.
people be like, "Yo, tell me," and I'm like, "I don't know, man." Like,
Ah.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of like the destructive things I used to do was probably because I would beat myself up about when I was doing things wrong. You know, because I've always been somebody who has wanted to do better, but a lot of the time I wouldn't. You know, it's like I knew I had to do better, or I knew I wanted to do better, and I'd be like, I know that's a thing that I'm doing wrong, and I keep on doing it, and then instead of fixing the problem, or instead of towing that line and at least keeping it at a midpoint and not being destructive about it, I would just go straight into destruction and I would just plow down. I'd just be like, I'm a this, and then boom, like I start doing all these bad things suddenly. And it's just the thing is you've got to, like you say, be aware of the fact that, okay, like, is this me? Yes, okay, it's me. But again, look at those small wins, right? It's like, okay, but yeah, this is me, but at least I'm not a raging alcoholic because of it. At least I'm not beating my, whatever because of it, right? At least
Wife,
I'm
kids,
not,
and dog. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah. At least
Yeah.
I'm not like, just like hammering somebody's head in because of it, like whatever it may
Yeah,
be.
you're not taking your pain and causing more pain and trauma to other people for it, right?
Yes, yeah, and
You
yourself.
gotta. Yes, exactly. So it's like just being that honest with yourself, and sometimes too, like I had to learn for myself too, in how you speak to yourself, even in a joking manner. Words are called spells for a reason. Like, okay, you spell words for a reason, right? Because the words are a spell. So you got to watch what you're saying and put into yourself, even in a joking manner, because your body and your spirit don't know that you're joking, right? And that was something I had to stop doing because I was tearing myself down without even realizing I was tearing myself down. I go do something and make a mistake, like, God, dumbass, what the hell are you doing that? But that wasn't good because that's a destructive way of me tearing myself down, even though I'm joking. What's your stupid ass doing something like that? It's destructive, but why would I be doing it even though I'm joking with myself? I know I'm not serious. My mind and my spirit don't know that, and they're starting to reciprocate that energy, and then that's starting to live deep inside me.
Yes. Again, there's a Bob Proctor did this. So basically, it was like you have your thoughts, which is your conscious mind. You have your feelings, which is your subconscious mind, and then you have your actions, which is your body, right? And so these are like three levels. I think this comes from Earl Nightingale originally. And basically, the idea is that, like you just said right there, when you're saying those things about yourself, that's a conscious thought. But when you do it on repeat constantly, right, and destroying yourself, that thought goes into your subconscious mind. Now it's a feeling. It's not just a thought, it's a feeling, right? And then that's where you start finding people who literally believe that they are, like, for instance, stupid people. People always say that, like, I'm stupid, and when people say that about themselves, like, I'm stupid, I can't learn. I'm like, no, you absolutely can. I categorically believe unless you have a literal disability, you can learn. Right. I thoroughly believe that. I think anybody can, and even people with disabilities, bro, they can learn as well. Like, I've seen it, so I think thoroughly a lot of people, what they do is they keep telling themselves that they're stupid. That becomes a subconscious feeling, and what happens is that actions then reciprocate those feelings. So that's why they start to do stupid stuff. That's why they start to say stupid things, all that kind of stuff, because they've constantly barraged themselves with that destructive negative self-talk. And like you say, that is a destructive thing. I remember reading a book that was a very old book. I don't think I have it on me, but um, this book was fantastic. It was literally just the way that you talk to yourself or something. Old book, but reading through it, I just thought it was incredible. Like, because it wasn't like one of these books where it's like affirm to yourself, be all your affirmations or whatever, right? But instead, it was just like, just make sure you're not like destroying yourself with the way that you talk to yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, those little things will make a huge impact, and it's crazy. And to the learning point, it's like people are like, well, I just can't learn this, just don't understand. It's like it's not until something will resonate with you, and that's what makes a good teacher, right? It's a good teacher ain't just, oh well, I can teach this. They find out how to get what they're teaching to resonate with the student, so the student can fully understand it, right? I love math now, like love math doing it, but in school it was difficult for me to understand. Growing up when I was younger, I was really big into skateboarding, bro. I was skateboard everywhere, doing all this stuff, had sponsorships when I was skateboarding, did competitions, all that stuff. So finally, one of my teachers took some interest in me and was like, all right, you're not doing good math. What's this now? Oh, you skateboard? Perfect. This is going to be great for geometry. Okay, 360s, this is that, and this is that. And he resonated it with skateboarding. Everything started to click for me. And I was like, oh my God. All right, got it. So sometimes it's just you ain't figured out how to that information can resonate with you to process to your mind to click. Bro, we've all had moments where somebody's giving us advice and we're like, that don't make no sense. Then years later on, something happens, you're like, that's what they meant. Okay, got you. So sometimes that stuff just ain't resonated. You ain't figured out how to process that information that clicks with you.
Yeah. You know, it's funny as well that loops right back to what we were saying about the prayer and the meditation is that sometimes we ask for things or we're trying to listen for things in the universe or we're trying to get energy for certain things. Like we're trying to figure certain things out. And at first, it just doesn't make sense. Like something happens and you're like, I don't understand. Like, why has this happened? But then 3 weeks later, suddenly it's like, oh, that's why it happened. You know, suddenly it resonates and it makes sense. And it's the same, like you say, with advice. Like a piece of advice you've been told months ago suddenly becomes relevant, or somebody tells you the exact same piece of advice that somebody else told you, but the difference is this time the words resonated because of the way it was said. You know, and I think this is why you see online so many podcasts, right? On YouTube, you see all these different podcasts of talking about lots of different things from business, money, you know, just like general life stuff to fitness to all these different things. And the reason there's so many different ones is because certain things resonate with certain people. And also at times as well, I've noticed like as people get older, you get like the new generation of young people coming in and suddenly they want to listen to somebody else. And those guys who were previously the big people for the young guys, now they're more for the older guys, right? And so it's like it shifts with like people's minds as they get older, etc. as well, which is like just a really interesting thing to me. And but again, it goes back full circle to that point that whatever whatever you think about yourself, it will become your actions and your feelings. And you have to understand that sometimes it's not you as such. It's that you haven't been given the perspective to understand it yet, right?
Yeah, for one, about to say shout out CEO Fresh, for this because he kind of taught us that in the CEO network too. He's like, do you know why I bring in all these different guests? Yeah, they might talk about the same thing we're talking about, but everybody says it different because Monday we might have somebody talk and it resonate with 25% of y'all. Thursday we have somebody else come in here and it resonate with the other 35. Like somebody can come in and say something. We can have a bunch of different guests talking about the same topic, but how they deliver the message might be received different from everybody else. So you gotta different voices are going to hit different people because it's just going to resonate their life experience, their energy, their character. They're just going to resonate with that. And so you can that's why you could you there's more than one ways to skin a cat, right? There's a million ways to say the same thing. So you just got to learn the audience that you're talking to and who you're talking to and figure out how to get it to resonate with them when you're trying to help somebody.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I see with what happened with me this week, right, and these past couple of weeks, from my own personal experience, just to give perspective again on it all, is this exact thing happen because a long time ago and for ages I've heard people beat up the same topic of sacrifice and leaving people behind, right? And I've always thought to myself, it's like, yeah, okay, but like I've moved on from people in my life, and I've sacrificed a bit and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but like I've done those things, So it's like, why do I keep hearing this advice? It's like, why do people constantly say this stuff? I'm like, I get it, like I've done it, whatever, right? And what I didn't realize though is how deep they meant it until recently, and my situation happened, and I was like, wow, this is a situation where you realize like you truly love these people, like I've loved a lot of people in my life, right? And I've always been a very loving person, and letting those people go and doing their own thing was difficult enough. But now it's like people that I'm really close with, and I'm like, nah, man, I have to get away from them. And I'm like, this is crazy to me because it's like I didn't realize like how deep the sacrifice goes, right? Of like if you want X thing, sometimes you have to do things that you really don't want to do. And it's like this is one of those things where I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but at the same time, I know I have to. Like I know I have to, and it's crazy because you start to feel like this pain inside you. And again, talking about feelings, does it convey the reality of the situation? Maybe not. But like you do feel these pains inside of you. And I'm like looking, I'm thinking, yo, like this is like one of those huge sacrifices and like leaving people behind. What this thing that I've heard for all this time and thought that like I understood it. Now I understand it even more. And I'm like, man, like this is hard, this is hard.
Yeah, man. I cannot remember who taught me this analogy and how to look at it, and I wish I could because it's helped me out with so much. But I was really young when they taught me this, and actually I think it might have been Tyler Perry. Now that I think about it, I think it was Tyler Perry when I was watching his stuff younger, and He said life is like a tree, and people in your life is like a tree. Okay, some people are leaves. The slightest change of weather, change of wind, they're going to blow right off. They're going to be gone from your life. They're going to turn on you. Okay, then you got other people that are like branches, right? Those small things come, but they're still there. But when the bigger storms come, might be a little bit too much weight, and they might break off too. But what you're looking for are those roots. You're looking for people who are your roots. No matter the weather, no matter the storm, no matter what comes your way, they are still there to help keep you grounded. They are still there to feed you the nourishments and the spiritual stuff that you need to flourish and still grow. Doesn't matter if it's Helen, tornado, hurricane, those people are still there trying to feed you to be the best tree that you can be. And a lot of times we fill up our life with friends that are leaves and branches, and we don't have enough roots in our life, and we're constantly wondering why our trees falling apart, why our tree looking dead all the time, because we don't actually have roots that's feeding us the nutrients we need.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that as well? I'd add one extra stage to that, which is the trunk, right? I'd add the tree trunk itself, the log, right, that comes up the middle. And I would call that the not the people that feed you the nutrient support that you need, but the people that you truly want to support yourself, the people that you want to help grow. But sometimes you have to first focus on the roots, right? And I think that's where the difficult part comes in. You know, to get into that analogy a bit deeper is like sometimes when you, especially when you're starting out as a tree, like you say, too many people are focused on the leaves and the branches, and then some of us are focused on the tree trunk, but we don't realize that before we can even grow the tree trunk, we need to look at the roots and make sure the roots are set in place. You know, and I think that's where it really gets difficult. Is understanding the difference between people who are your roots and people who are going to basically help you become the super successful person you want to be or achieve whatever you want to achieve in life, because it doesn't have to be money, it could be anything at all, but you need those roots for the people who will help you achieve that, you know. And then the trunk is the people that you want to support, like for instance your family might not be your roots, but your family might be that tree trunk.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like the roots are just the most important to try to find as a friend group too, and it's not the easiest, but it's the most important. Because I love that analogy so much too, because and I've had people come up like, oh well, you can just cut the tree off and it's done, the roots ain't gonna matter at that point. Bro, we've seen where you cut a tree down the stump and you see that little sprout of a tree going right back up through the middle of it, coming back to life. As long as you got good roots and you're based and grounded in a good place to actually feed you all the things your mind, body, soul, spirit needs to be fed. It don't matter what anybody throws at you. You don't know how many times branches falls off. It don't matter if they come and cut you down, right down as far as they can. You still got the roots and the nutrients to grow and bring everything right back to where you were before. It might take time and it might suck, but they're not going to be able to destroy you even when they try to destroy you at the core.
Dude, so true, man. So true. I love that because, like you say, the roots are everything, man. The roots are literally what holds the tree together. You know, you've probably seen it, right? Where a tree has weak roots. If you ever look at a toppled tree, right? I for anybody, if they're ever out on a walk, if you look at a toppled tree, look at the roots, and you'll always see that the roots are the reason it fell. Because all these roots around the edges would have maybe disintegrated, maybe it got old, whatever. But you'll always see weak roots. And what it also happens is within the roots is like this big pound of soil that basically came with it, right? The soil can't even escape the roots either. So it goes to show that once the roots are in, like it's in that ground forever, you know. So yeah, man, the roots are the most important part, and like I say, the roots don't particularly mean your family or anything like that. It means the people who, like you say, are going to feed you the nutrients for your growth, right? And that's like the most important part, and they're also going to hold you steady when things are really bad. So
And it keep you grounded when you're getting trying to grow too big, think you bigger. Hey, don't forget, bro, we're here. We're still here. Stay grounded to
focus
where
on,
you're at.
yeah, yeah.
Your limbs can be in the clouds, bro, but your roots need to still be grounded. You still need to know where you came from and who you are.
To go even deeper, if you, like you just said, if you want to grow further, your roots have to be stronger, right? Like
Yes.
without, the bigger you get, the stronger your roots have to be, man. So it's like the iceberg. Have you ever seen the iceberg thing where it's like the tip of the iceberg is this, and then underneath is all the stuff? It's the same kind of thing. It's like the tip of the iceberg is this big, tall piece of success that you see, a stack of money or whatever, and you're like, wow, that's incredible. Let me go over there and do that. And suddenly, when you get there, you realize there's all these things underneath that are supporting that. And you're like, how do I, how do I do all these things? And that's what people like don't see. They don't see those underneath roots that hold everything together. They only ever see the surface level, and that's why people are so addicted to running over here, running over there. That's why when things go bad, most people are destructive, because it's like they don't have these strong enough roots to keep them grounded, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, bro. It's very important to have foundation and people around you, and it's not easy to find it, bro. I've been searching for it for years, and I ain't got it, bro. And that doesn't mean I'm giving up. I'm still searching, but it makes it harder and harder just because of the trust issues, the abandonment. And I know it sounds like weak as shit saying that as a man, abandonment shit for me, but I've always been the person in life that everybody was so willing to let go. Nobody wanted to fight for me. Nobody wanted. If anything came, I'm the first person to go. I'm the first person they're gonna cut off. Nobody has no loyalties, no ties to me. I'm always expendable, bro. And that shit sucks. So then when I'm trying to build trust with people and build those relationships, it's happened so much in my life that I'm like, I don't even know if I could trust you to try to build this relationship with you. Like, how do I know? Because, bro, we've known each other about a year now. You've seen that, bro. It's back to back for me. When shit comes, it's fucking coming, and there's not really much of a break for me. And I try to be positive. I try to be optimistic. I try to smile and be happy, and not let it destroy me. But, bro, it's day in and day out, and the shit's getting tough. And so for me, it's like I'm still out there trying, but my thing, and I know that this is a me thing, is that I'm my own roadblock with trying to get to that where I need to be to get roots, because I'm so holding on to the past, the times that like I've always been expendable, and I'm the one that everybody's going. So why the fuck wouldn't you? At this point in time, we come go friends. Something comes up, you're gonna run off too. Just like I just what's always happened in my life, and I got to get past that to understand that I got to give the people the opportunity to surprise me and show me that they're not like everybody else that I've ever encountered in my life, because I haven't had. I've always like that's something I've envied from so many people. Like I've seen things like they've made a mistake, and not even just be a bad mistake, but just be a mistake, and the people will defend them, be there for them. I know they'll get through this. And it's like I've never had that in my life. That people had my back. It just they was ready to go at any time, and sometimes it was they could just hear something from somebody and then just go and never even come talk to me about anything at all. So it's just like I gotta find those people, but it makes it hard when you go through so much stuff like that. That's like, how the fuck do I trust somebody that I'm going to be somebody they're going to really actually be worth fighting for and actually be loyal to, that they're going to have friendship, relationship, and they're going to be here? Because I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna fuck up. I'm gonna have some hard times. I do shit sometimes that's stupid, and that's just what it's gonna be. But I need you to understand that at the end of the day, I'm not a bad person. I'm not trying to do those things to purposely or been vindictive, but it's trying to see what I'm doing, because I'm the roadblock in those situations, not other people, because I'm not giving them the true full opportunity to show me that they can be what I'm actually needing, because I'm so guarded.
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting about that though is the most difficult piece of any like any improvement in a person or anything is time, right? Like time is the most difficult one. But like things like that, right? They this is a really great example for people out there. Is your exact situation right there? To me, I look at that and I think the only thing that will really thoroughly prove to you that you're right for basically trying to move past that and trying to again build those relationships, build those roots back out is time. And that's like the hardest one, right? Because it's like that's the one where it's like you literally just don't know. You just have to keep going and keep going, and then it's like keep going. Is this gonna? I'm still going. And it's like is this gonna end at some point? Like is it And like that's the real hard one. The hardest one of every any piece of improvement for anybody is consistency and time, right? Because I think staying consistent is one thing, but when I talk about consistency, I'm not just talking about doing it every day. I'm talking about doing it every day with maybe the odd bad day and doing it over years, right? And that's where it gets like, man, like you have to hold on. You know what I mean? You have to hold on. And like everything we've just said in this entire podcast, bro, it's that thing like when it comes to your situation and for anybody out there who's similar in these kinds of situations, it's like you have to look at it from that perspective of, okay, what is the test? You know what I mean? Like, what's the test for me? It's like, have I done anything in the past that put me in this position? Maybe, maybe not. Have I improved? Not beating yourself up about it, right? And just being like, okay, like this is the way I'm going to approach it this time. Um, what's the other one? Like, like with God, if you're a religious person, and believe in God and everything, it's like you got to look and be like, damn, like sometimes like yeah, like I've been through these things, and like I guess it's God's trying to say to me, like, yo, like I'm trying to show you every bad relationship that you don't want. You keep telling me about all these different relationships. Like I'm trying to show you the bad relationships first, so that you then never have to go through it again. You know what I mean? The silver lining in it all.
And that's why, like, as much of my situation and I talk about it, but I take so much full responsibility for it. For as much as it sucks and it's painful, and I'm tired of it. Um, it's my fault, bro. It's entirely my fault because of how I've let people treat me, how I've not set boundaries and everything. And it was not even just that, because of those things were like, okay, how can I trust people to come around and actually gonna be loyal? And then like when I start diving into that, like, okay, well, why do people do that? Why do they treat that? What am I doing in that? And it comes back down to, and me and Fresh had this talk in Miami, and it was like, I told him, I was like, bro, I don't think I've ever felt love. And I don't mean like, relationship between like a female and a man or anything. Like, I don't think I've ever felt love at any point in time in my life, from parents, from friends, from siblings, from nothing, bro. Because when it came time to show that you love and care for me and you was there for me, nobody's ever showed up, bro. I spent my 21st birthday in Iraq. Nobody sent me a card. Nobody sent me a birthday. Nobody called me, tell me happy birthday. Bro, I was married at the time. My family was there. Nobody, nobody. So, and it's always been situations like that. So I'm like, all right, why do I have trust issues? Why do all my relationships fail? Well, because I ain't never felt real love. I don't know if I know how to love properly. I need to figure that out. I need to understand that. I need to understand to accept myself and have respect for myself and set boundaries. Those are things. So it's been my fault, but then trying to correct those things, it's not an easy task, but it's necessary. And that's what the more I dive into it, the more realization is like, damn, bro, this shit's my fault, and I've let a lot of shit slide and let a lot of shit be done to me willingly without even knowing that I was willingly letting people treat me this way. And there's a quote that's like, be careful what you tolerate, because you're teaching people how they're allowed to treat you. And that was my thing. I allowed too much shit and tolerated too much shit, and it allowed them to get away with everything, and they just thought I was the person they could walk all over. And that's, again, my fault.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really interesting, but it's always, as they say, it comes from the closest places, though, because when you open your heart to certain people, that's obviously when they get close to you in your mind. That doesn't particularly mean that they're close to you, right? And like you say, it's a commendable thing to sit there and take full responsibility for that, because ultimately, as difficult and as painful as it is, you sit there and you're like, but it kind of is, because it's like I should have been more aware of it. I should have, whatever. But again, at the same time, how could you ever been aware of it? Going back to the good and bad argument about how can you know what's good if you haven't been through what's bad, right? How can you know that this is a boundary that you need if you don't ever have to set that boundary, right? And I would look at my own position sometimes in life, and I've always thought to myself, like, my friends especially have always been extremely loyal to me, right? I've always had very, very loyal friends. Oddly enough, I'm the guy who's never seemed to ran into the problem that you ran into, where people like wouldn't come and hold my back, right? Like for me, it was like if I called anybody, it'd have been like, "Yeah, what's up? Like, what do you need? Like, should I walk around your?" It was like straight away. And to me, I was like, "This is weird," but it's like I've never experienced anybody doing that to me, which is strange to me. But what's odd is that the truth is people have been. It's the people that I never thought would, right? Which is a really weird part. The people that I thought might have done that, and I had kind of a few boundaries there, never actually really did. But the people that I didn't put boundaries in front of were the people who, in the end, have put me in a position where I'm like, I've now got to like go. You know what I mean? And there's like maybe one person that I can like look to and say, this person I know I can rely on. But the rest of them, it's like, again, brother, I look and I think, man, like as much as I love you guys, like I've got to go, like because I never thought that you would be the people that are actually holding me back, And so the same thing though, like you say, like for you, like that's kind of the thing is like it's these people that you never thought it would be, And that's the funny thing, is when you never think it'll be those people, those are the people you got to watch out for.
Yeah, and it's like love and loyalty too also don't mean like yes men too. That's what a lot of people think. It's like, oh, I need somebody that's loyal to me and loves me, and they're never gonna tell me what I'm doing wrong. They're always gonna have my back. No, 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 no. That's not love and loyalty. Love and loyalty is going to, yeah, they're gonna be there through your hard times, but they're also gonna be like, hey, you are wrong for this. You know that, right? Like you need to be doing this. You are fucking up here. Hey, your money's back because you know you're doing bad with money, man. Let's get your budget ready better, right? Do we know that your relationships ain't doing that because you're doing this, right? You need those people, and a lot of people misinterpret love too because I heard or not heard, but this pastor once said, and it was on a TikTok video, but he said love people misinterpret love because love isn't love isn't doing what you do when you're happy. Love is what you do in spite how you feel, right? When you love somebody, even though if you're angry, I'm still going to take care of them. I'm still going to make sure that they're good taken care of because at the end of the day, I love them. Like for most people, you have genuine love for your mom and dad. They're going to piss you off all the time. From time to time, there's going to be things that's wrong, but you have love for them so that when they need something, they need to take care of, you're still going to be there. No matter how many times they might aggravate you, might have times you have love for them, so they're going to be there. So despite how you feel, like you might be angry right now with them, despite how you feel, love shows up, and despite how you feel. And that's where I think a lot of people is that they'll like, oh well, this is love. Well, I'm not feeling this right now, or I'm mad at you, so nope, this I'm just gonna hold this over here. And it's like that's not love. That's the opposite of love because love's gonna show up even at the hardest of times. And loyalty is also gonna be like, hey, bro, you fucking up right now. That's also loyalty, and I don't think a lot of people understand that either. That they think loyalty means it's like, nah, bro, you're good. You shouldn't have done that. No, that was the girl's fault. That was them fault over there. No, loyalty is gonna hold you accountable. Love's gonna hold you accountable, but it's gonna hold you accountable in a way to build you up, not tear you down.
100%, man. And in the modern world today, so many people mistake love for hatred, which is crazy. But but I always say it's because love and hate are two sides of the same coin, right? When somebody hates somebody, they will follow them around everywhere. They will follow everything they're doing. They'll be around them all the time in order to try and tear them down. Now, somebody who loves somebody, what do? The exact same thing. They follow somebody around everywhere. They're always around them. They're always trying to talk to them. They're always trying to be a part of their life. But they do it to build you up, right? And the problem is that to build somebody up, sometimes you have to tell them, "Hey, this is something that you're doing wrong. I know you need to change this." And a lot of people mistake that for hatred. Like, "Oh, well, you must not like me then." And it's like, "No, I do." But hatred can, on the other hand, you could be doing something like, and I always bring it back to drinking because it's such a common thing, but somebody could be downing loads of drinks at a bar or whatever, and the other person next to him going, "Yeah, yeah, get another one, get another one, get another one," and it's like before you know it, you're like out of it completely, and your mate's going, "Ha ha ha ha, I'm going home," and it's like, oh, suddenly it's like maybe that guy actually hates me and he doesn't want the best for me, you know.
Yes, that's something that like I was taught too. Is like just because everybody's around you, don't mean they're around you for the good causes. Some people are just there to see a shit show. Some people are just to see there or just around to watch you fall, just so they can be like, I knew he'd never make it. I knew he couldn't do it. I knew he wouldn't matter to the. Yeah, I knew he was gonna fail at some point because they're just waiting. Some people are just around to watch you until you fail, so they can talk their trash. And a lot of people are just pests, like you're saying. Like they will come around and try to feed off of you until there's no more. And then when you do take a stand or you do like, all right, no, I'm not going to do this no more. Like with drinking, there's a person over there that's probably cheering. It's like, yeah, drink. And you're like, in that moment, you're like, yeah, let's drink. Then you got the friend over there. It's like, hey, you probably should cut that out. You get a little angry when you drink, or, you black out when you drink. You don't remember what you're doing. You might want to slow down. You're like, man, fuck you. You a hater, bro. No, let's drink, bro. And you got it backwards. Like you fell for
Yeah,
the hate
yeah,
instead of the
yeah.
love because this seemed like more fun than this did, but this was the right thing for you. And this person actually had their interest in you. This person just wanted a show and entertainment out of you and at any cost of yourself.
So true, man. So true. I honestly, this has been a really, really good talk, man. Very, very spiritual. Very, very spiritual. And again, for people sitting and watching this, please understand that, like, I get it that in the modern world there is a lot of opposing views. There's a lot of strong opinions on things, and there's a lot of people who will be like, "Don't believe in this, and believe in that, and believe in this." And again, as we were just saying right there, think about the intention behind what they're saying. Are they saying that because of personal experience? And was their personal experience good or bad? Are they saying that out of hatred for certain people? Are they saying that out of love because of people that they know in their lives? It's like, why are they saying certain things? Why are you believing certain things? Be very, very aware and be very careful with your energy, because it can be very easily disturbed. And as we just were talking about earlier, both me and Leonard, both this past couple of weeks, have been going through stuff. And we've been very open with you on this podcast, explaining a few of our stories, and understand that it's like, the reason we're here is because we're trying to prove to people that entrepreneurship, doing all this stuff, it's not the easiest thing, right? And it's also like that loneliness that you're feeling, those mental health issues that you're feeling, even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're just somebody with a job or whatever, like, understand that, like, that's why we're talking about this stuff, because we want people to understand that you're not alone in it, but also there's probably a lot that you're doing which is damaging yourself. And I'm saying that out of love, right?
Yes,
Like, I'm not saying
correct.
that to be mean to you. I'm saying that out of love, because genuinely, I've seen so many people with so much potential, but they can't help but go out, party all the time, or they can't help but argue with people that are trying to help them. They can't help but just be destructive. And it's like, you might be one of those people. Be very self aware of that fact, that you might be one of those people, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Look at the small wins of your life and work your way up from that.
Yeah, and that's what I always had to always learn, because like it was situations where I was like, oh, just people are bad. And that's what it was at first, because I wouldn't want to try to take accountability. It's like, oh, everybody in the world is just bad. There's just bad people out there. Fuck them people. They ain't no good, this and that. But I had to realize that there's bad people in this world, but there really ain't as many bad people as we think it is. People are more optimistic than they are bad. So just because you might give somebody some leadway and they're optimistic and took the opportunity to the leadway you gave them, and they did worse with it or treated you bad or took that for granted, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad, because they might be a good person. They just took the opportunity that you gave them to do something that just was in bad terms. Everybody makes bad decisions and makes mistakes, and if you give people slack, they're going to take what you're going to give them. So that's why boundaries are important. That's what I had to learn. I got to set boundaries, and I'm still working on it. Set your boundaries, because you're only letting people treat you that way because you're showing them like, oh, this is okay. Well, my other friend over here has boundaries, won't let me treat them like that. So I don't treat them like that. I'm a really good friend to them. But you over here, let me talk trash about you, encourage you to do things that you shouldn't be doing. It's fun over here. We're going to do this. This doesn't mean that they're a bad person. They're just we all make mistakes and take opportunities, and are optimistic. So just realize that not everybody's bad. And some people are just taking opportunities that you're giving them. So stop giving them those opportunities and figure out how to protect yourself better with boundaries.
Dude, so true. Go check out the Boundaries podcast. That'll help a lot with setting those boundaries. Leonard, it's been an absolute pleasure, man, as always.
Absolutely, man. It was a good talk, man. Definitely needed this after the past couple weeks. It's been rough.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man. Peace out, guys.